the show with
All right.
something that nobody has heard yet, or at least
Yeah. Yeah. As we talk here, people are starting to scuttle a little bit, Richard. And by the way, how are you? Everything well?
Yes, sir. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. People are starting to scuttle a little bit that over the past couple weeks, it's come out through back channels, of course. That's how mainly all the news comes out through back channels that the parting of the ways was not necessarily incredibly amicable between Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers. That maybe he wanted to kind of hang on a little bit longer, and they didn't make it easy for him. I don't want to say forced him out, but pretty close to it, much like the Troy Polamalu situation. So that being said, that's news that's coming down kind of as we speak. I look at it as there was a definite diminishing skill set that was happening. And doesn't that need to be factored in all of this?
Oh, so you're telling me that the scuttlebutt is that they support Ben?
No, that Ben telling people that he would have played a lot. He would have played another year, would have kept on playing. But the Steelers kind of said, that's enough. So
I think they've outlived their loyalty with Ben.
I don't know what the issue is, but I assume it, and I presume and pretty much know this will continue to be something that people will talk about. That because Ben will want to talk about it.
Oh, Ben will want to talk about it for sure. And I mean, seriously, like, come on, man. You know, it's like, I guess it's like being married, married 10 years. And then for some reason you're not happy anymore. You can't change that just because you've been married 10 years. I mean, I think that the data supports Ben needed to go. He needed to find another way to go.
The last 23 games of his career, he couldn't evade anyone. It seemed like people were, in his kitchen and kind of he couldn't move, and he couldn't throw the football beyond 12 yards with any kind of accuracy. So it's interesting that it's all coming out now, and it is. I'm telling you, it will be a storyline.
Yeah, I find it sad that. I really find it sad that it's even coming out. I find it sad that Ben would really think that there was much left to offer as a performing quarterback, because that tells me he's not really telling himself the truth. And that doesn't mean Ben's bad. Ben was great,
right,
for a long time. But it does run its course. It did run its course, and I think if that's the case, the Steelers. Absolutely. You surprised me if that's the case, because I didn't think they would do that. And that does tell me really reinforces my feelings for the Steelers this year.
See, that to me screams that the second part of the whole thing, which becomes for me the bigger story, that there was a presumption in this town, and maybe it went on for a long time, that the quarterback called the shots, but at least there was a dropping off point where somebody said, hey, enough's enough. Like, I'm the boss here. And no, you're not getting it done, and we need to move in another direction. It doesn't need to be that it's something that is, where there's contention or where it's bad, but somebody finally realized we got to go in a different direction.
So that brings up a point.
Mm-hmm.
We know publicly the personal relationship between Maurkice Pouncey and Ben. It was always not just assumed, but it was said that they would go out together.
Right.
Have you heard anything at all about that? What are the circumstances behind Maurkice's departure without Ben and Ben staying another year?
I have no idea, but it's a great point by you, because I don't know how you felt, but when those two gentlemen after the Cleveland game sat on that bench together, I was convinced if one was going, they were both going.
100%. I agree. And it didn't happen. So I wondered, in your world of behind the scenes, the underbelly of sports in this city, if you had heard anything about that, because I still, that's a question to me, because to me, Maurkice could have played longer than Ben. Maurkice was a specimen.
I agree. It's also quizzical how this ended, and I wonder if the Steelers. This is such a great topic that I wonder if the Steelers, if they could have a total redo, would have said everybody's out 2 years earlier. Like we're going to overhaul this thing, the COVID season, 2020, before the COVID season. Let's overhaul all of it. You got to go. You got to go. You got to go. We really don't have the chance that we have, even though they had a great 10 games that year. If they would have started an overhaul and a rebuild earlier.
So you're talking about the 11-0 start?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a couple things to that. It appears to me, because here's what I see.
Mm-hmm.
This is on the surface. I see a completely different approach to free agency this year.
Right.
Different than any of the other last 17 years.
It's a different approach than it's since there's been free agency in the league for the Steelers.
Right. Okay. So you agree with that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Now we have a controversy about Ben saying that he really wasn't given an option to stay. Well, thank goodness for that. But what it says to me, what it really says to me is that somebody said, enough. I'm tired of underperforming. And by underperforming, I mean, look at the record, the playoff record. It was pretty horrendous. The lack of a Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowls in Kevin's career. Now, Mike Tomlin is a great coach, but here we go. And I looked at some statistics with Bill Belichick, and I'm not sure if I shared them with you or not, but they're pretty impressive. I think same time frame. Looks like he started like 2020 with New England also. So he's pretty impressive statistics. But what it looks like to me is somebody, and I don't know if it was Mike Tomlin, I don't know if it was Art Rooney, I don't know who it was, but somebody to me said, that's enough. I don't care what you have to do. I don't care how many free agents you have to sign. We have the cap space. No more excuses. Get it done.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I wonder if they would have done it sooner if they could. If the proof will be in the yields this year. If young guys can go out and win, it'll make them look like they should have done it even sooner. But it's fascinating that they finally got it. You know what I mean? Like the light bulb finally went off.
See, to me, I think it's Art Rooney.
Yeah.
I think Art Rooney said, okay, guys, I've been the Steelers. I've run this for the past 15 years, the Steelers way.
He was the last holdout, is what you're telling me?
Yes. And I'm going to just continue. I'm going to allow this because I believe in the Steelers way. No change, conservative. I'm done with it. Now here's what I want. I want to win. I want to win. And whatever that takes, because what haven't we done to win? Well, we haven't pursued active free agency. We've done some good, had some good free agency signings. Minka Fitzpatrick, we've done, and I don't think he was a free agent.
It was a trade, but nonetheless, it kind of served as the same thing.
Yeah. So, but I think that we've done and had some pretty good free agent signings, but never aggressively, never picked up as many or the positions. We've given positions an opportunity to improve. I'm thrilled. I love our free agent signings, but again, it's just the culture and wondering what happened and what made it different this year.
I agree. There are people that are apprehensive. They don't know after the draft and the Miles Jack sign. I got to say, I feel like just in talking to people and being around people, it feels like there's a re-energy with this franchise right now. People may not like what the record is at the end of the year, and who knows what it's going to be. I feel a buzz and an energy like I haven't felt in a couple of years.
I said it last week. I'll say it again. They're divisional winners.
Wow.
Kenny Pickett is going to light it up. He is going to light it up. Chase is going to have an amazing year.
You think so?
I do. I think Deontay is going to have an amazing year. I think this is the year. It's not a little better. This is the year. And I don't know. We have some pretty good draft choices in wide receivers.
Yeah, did you know this too? I looked up today because the schedule out on Thursday night, and they don't play one game outside of the Eastern time zone. Not one game. All the away games are in the Eastern time zone. There are no even central trips, and definitely nothing on the West Coast. That intrigues me from a standpoint that there's not that elongated trip. There's not those long weeks. There's not a whole lot of travel. It's set up where the Steelers, with a young team and a young bunch, can kind of really be tight knit and don't have to go and play a lot of away games. They're all Eastern time zone games.
So shame on me. I haven't looked at the schedule. But I think that's a pretty good factor. I'm curious how they do that.
Yeah, well, they cross over with Philadelphia. They're going to play this year. They're going to play the Giants. They get some of those teams at home, and it happens to be the NFC, the portion that falls in the Eastern time zone. So that being said, they don't cross over with the West Coast teams. And they have Tom Brady coming to Pittsburgh, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, he's another one that should retire.
You think so? Oh, yeah. How about Tom Brady making $375 million to be a broadcaster over 10 years? What if he's terrible 5 games in? What if he's awful at it?
He won't be.
How do you...
I drink the Kool-Aid. I'm sorry.
I know you love him, but here's the thing. You like the Manning cast after you gave it a chance a couple times, right? It grew on.
I go back and forth between them.
But
it's one channel difference, so I go back and forth.
He's not going to do that. He's going to be calling a game traditionally as a traditional color commentator like Tony Romo. Just because everything he's ever touched has turned to gold, you're working under the assumption he's going to be great. I think he probably will be, but that's a lot of money to take a risk on for somebody that's never done it.
Okay, so I'll give you the anti to that. I have seen him on television with his television presence, interview and all that, and I like him. And I think he's got a lot of charisma. He's really got it together. But what I see also and I don't like is Tom Brady looks like he's falling in love, sorry, Giselle, with somebody else.
Oh, yeah?
Himself.
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah, but I think it's really becoming evident more than it was. And maybe Bill Belichick had a harness on it. Maybe he hasn't changed. Maybe this has always been him. But it's really showing, and I don't like it.
Did you ever think of it in these terms? Maybe he retired for 5 minutes, went home, and Giselle said, I can't handle you. Go get a job. You're too much. Keep working. And it's Brady that needs to be out there.
I think that's what somebody would say to me.
That's a lot of money to invest in somebody that's never done this. I think he'll probably do well. Let me ask you one more question about
that's a lot of money. You're right. No matter who it is.
Oh, do you think he will compare? Okay, he's going to be doing the game of the week on Fox when he's retired. So that's the game that people will be watching anyway, the big NFC game, Packers and Cowboys. Okay, people are going to watch that game anyway. Who are football people, will he compel people who wouldn't otherwise be watching football to watch? Because that's where you pick up your audience.
I think initially. I don't know that I don't know that it carries, but initially, it's the new shiny penny.
Okay.
I think, yeah. And then after that, he's going to have to earn it.
Because Romo was great, I thought, for about a year and a half, and then.
Yeah, you get tired of him, because he was, the guru, the seer of he could call the next play,
yes.
And as we both know, that's pretty not lasting. You can't do that for long.
No.
So hey, we do our interview show also, which is Car Stars and everything in between.
Yep.
We usually tape it on Tuesdays to air Sundays. Our guest yesterday or the past week did not show up because of what you just said. There was a difference in time zone that he misunderstood. He's in California, we're here. But it was, somebody help me with the name. What? I can't hear you.
I heard her.
Did you hear her?
Was it Dr. Bennett Amalu?
Yes.
Okay, I know who that is.
So Dr. Bennett Amalu was going to be our guest.
Right.
And I had asked you about that.
Yes.
And you gave me a question to ask him. And I think it'd be appropriate to talk about that right now because it does carry over to the NFL and it carries over to all phases of contact sports.
Yeah,
What was the question?
he's a central portion of that whole concussion movie, right? Dr.
Right.
Bennett and Mullen. And
They
he worked
shut
here
him
in
down.
Pittsburgh for a while.
Yes, he shut him down. He had to finance it with his own money.
Yes.
And push forward, and then they made a movie about it.
If I would ask him one question, I would ask him this. Does he think that there'll be football in its current form in 25 or 30 years? And if not, what will football look like? Because to me, if you look at the advancements in the last 25 years, the equipment has not been able to keep up with the advancement of the athlete. The athlete has gotten bigger, stronger, faster, more than ever at such a quick rate. And no matter how great you make the equipment, especially the headgear, it can't keep up. So what makes us think it'll keep up as athletes keep getting bigger, stronger, and faster?
That's a really great question. And at what age? I mean, do you let your son play football? Do you want your son to play football? I'll tell you, I used to be partners with Rod Woodson, and we're still very good friends. And Rod said I would never let my young son, at the time, play football before the age of 12 or 14 because of the development of the bones. And, that's interesting because right now, the parents are crazy.
Right. Oh, yeah. In everything.
Yeah. And so they're crazy. They want their kids to be in football or some organized sport, which I agree with that part. But, football, I saw my son who, like every time they gave him the ball, it was a touchdown because he was fast. So, and he was young, but they just give him the ball on an end sweep, touchdown every time, right? And then one day, it wasn't a touchdown. One day, on the side, he was running up the sideline, and somebody came at him head on and just popped him hard.
Yeah.
I was across the field, and he didn't get up. And I want to tell you, I could hear the hit. It looked like a perfect hit. It was right in the numbers, perfect, and he just flattened him. And I waited for about 5 minutes, and then I couldn't wait anymore because people think I'm nuts anyway. And I sprinted across the field and looked at him and thought, no, I don't want my son to play football. I don't want that to happen. I know it's normal. I know it's okay. Kyler Murray showed us how wonderful he was when he was a young man. That made me sick too, by the way. But yeah, I thought, it just doesn't. It's not worth it because the risk versus the reward. Football. I have helmets, professional helmets,
right,
in my office. Do you have any?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're like, how many pounds are they?
Oh, you got to train your neck muscles just to put them on.
It's insane. And so your question is really a valid question.
Well, it comes from this.
It would look like in 25 years.
I don't know. It comes from this, though. And the reason I thought of that is Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark is, take him or leave him, whatever people think about him from a media perspective. He said something to me one time that I thought was one of the most true things I've ever heard. When he was asked about the safety of football, he said, let's just cut through the BS. I know it's probably going to shave years or maybe years where I'm with it off the end of my life. But I understand that the years that I have will be made richer and with more money and able to do more things because of football. And anybody that doesn't tell you that is just lying to themselves.
Well, look at Mike Webster.
Right.
Right. So, I don't know. It's just, you just have to weigh the risk versus the reward. I don't know how much different the game of football could look 25 years from now. I think the changes really need to be in the equipment.
But I know athletes could look different. Look at Jack Ham. He would have to play safety today. He was a mean linebacker. Look at Mike Webster's size. He couldn't play along the line today. But you're right.
Yeah, good point. They're great points.
How much can the equipment get better from here? I don't know. But I know the athletes have gotten bigger, stronger, and faster even in the past 20 years.
Yeah. You look at them. But then you look at some of the guys that have retired, and they've shrunk to nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Your Alan Fanekas and people like that, right.
But does that indicate something?
It's a scary proposition. But you know what? It's America. It's also America's strongest addiction, too, is the NFL.
Isn't that something?
Everybody's in it. It owns our Sunday. It owns our whole being on Sundays.
Yeah. Did we talk about Mike Tomlin? First of all, can I say something about hockey real fast?
Have at it.
Chris Letang, I think he's unbelievable. I just love him.
He's in unbelievable shape. That's why.
Yeah, he really is. He's a great guy. Sidney Crosby, Malkin, these guys are perfect. They're great representations of professional sports. I just can't say enough about the integrity of that team. In starting with the coach, starting with the ownership, starting with Mario. Okay, and I know he's still involved. I know we have new ownership model, but I know Mario's still involved. Mario set the culture there, and the culture remains. And I'll tell you, that's one hell of an organization.
It's a model organization in pro sports, not just around here. It's from the top down, the way they're expected to carry themselves and what they do. And you know how you can tell when free agents want to sign somewhere, how many choose to come here that have other options, not just because they win, but because of all the little things that they do right, from the practice facility to the locker room to everything.
Every part of it. And I don't know where, how that takes time to develop that culture. So one other question, what do you know the minority partner of the Steelers at all?
I know there's a bunch of them. I don't know them.
There's a bunch?
Oh, yeah.
How about Thomas Tall?
Thomas Tall, I don't know him. I know of him. I know what he's all about.
What have you heard of him?
Well, first of all, I've seen him a couple times. He's got more money than God. That's number one, from the movie business. Number two, I saw him at training camp. I was down right near him, and I talked to him briefly about something. And then I looked, and there were two guys. They were both only about 5'10", but didn't have an ounce of fat on them. And they flanked him, and I was like, who are these guys? Then it just processed. They were his security guys, and they were absolutely, undeniably like Navy SEAL type guys. And they went and they got in this Sprinter van that was all black paneled out, and he operated as if he didn't even see them, but it was like a presidential security detail. These two. That was my one run-in with Thomas Tall, and I know some people who over in Sewickley know him, and he's done a lot for that community.
He still does, which is really where I was going with it, because all I have heard about this guy is that, first of all, some people have said that he's crazy like me, which I would take as a compliment.
Sure.
Second of all, because you don't want it now, you want it right now. So I take that as a compliment, and I love it. The other thing that I've heard about him, undeniably from many people, what a guy he is. Mm-hmm. What an amazing guy he is, and how committed he is to his family, and just a good person. And I think that's a really wonderful trait. I didn't realize and didn't know much about him, but as I start to talk to people about him, and his name continues to come up. I have heard the same bodyguard stories, by the way.
Yeah.
I hope someday I'm worthy of bodyguards like that.
Well, you better find big ones. You don't need big ones, though. Look at you. You can take care of yourself. The thing about Thomas Tall that I have read some on him, because I know some people who know him, I think the reason why he comes off like that and is like that is because he had to work for every single thing. He wasn't someone who grew up rich. He put himself through, I want to say, Trinity Pauling or one of those schools like that, and worked for it. It's one thing to have money. It's another thing to make your own money from nothing. And
it certainly is. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. So
it really makes a big difference. And sometimes that generation doesn't exist like that anymore. It's entitlement.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, I just thought I'd want to bring that up and talk and give accolades to Mr. Thomas Tall.
Well, we'll be in mini camp sooner rather than later, just like a week or so, just OTAs, and then St. Vincent before we know it, Richard.
Isn't that crazy?
I love it. Football.
Steelers win the division.
That's your big prediction. I can't go there.
What are the odds?
You'll get paid if you bet that right now. I know that.
I'll bet it. A lot of money. Let's go.
Where do I bet? $2 on that probably wins about 75.
75 what?
Bucks for $2 bet. So do the math.
Well, how much would
So
1,000 be? How much would 5,000 be?
Oh, a lot. $5,000, you're going to win a lot for the Steelers to win.
Like how much?
Probably, at least 10, probably 30,000, 35,000 bucks at least.
That's all?
Yeah. Maybe 40,000 bucks on a five. No. Probably if it's 10, it's at least 10 to 1, 12 to 1, $5,000 bet, you'll probably win $65,000.
Yeah, I want rich strike odds. You know?
You understand why Vegas has big buildings and nice stuff?
Yes, because they won't build on winners.
Right. Gosh.
I used to say that. I worked there. I'd say, stop. These places weren't built on winners. Funny story. I went to work at Caesar's Palace in Lake Tahoe. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a job for like the first week. This was like eons ago. All I did was hang out in the casino. So I was playing blackjack. All of a sudden, I'm up $5,000. And this is a long time ago when $5,000 was a lot more than $5,000.
Right.
I called home. My mother said, so when do you start work? And I said, Mom, I'll be honest with you. I don't know why people think this is so hard. I might just wait a little bit and continue to make money. I've already made $5,000 and I don't think I can make that working. And of course she said, oh, honey, please don't do that. Don't get caught up in that. And I said, Mom, I'm a pretty smart guy. I can figure it out. Hung up the phone. The next 7 days, I gave back the 5 and another 5 of my own.
Oh, there you go.
And I would say these places weren't built on winners.
And that's when you got a job, right?
Yeah. So there you go.
There you are.
That's my last anecdote.